Good day, fellow adventurer, and welcome. My name is CO Matt, and today I will be doing my third Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remaster class overview. This one is going to be about the Cleric. I'm going to try to keep these videos to about 10 to 12 minutes in length, so please bear with me if I don't cover everything on all the slides. The Cleric, much like the two classes that preceded it in this series, also received a plethora of remaster changes. All Clerics received a buffed Divine Font, as the extra heal or harm slots now start at 4 and increased by 1 at 5th and 15th level, as if you had started with a +3 Charisma mod and leveled it at every opportunity. In terms of doctrines, the Cloistered Cleric remains exactly the same, and progresses as most full casters do. The Warpriest, on the other hand, has received a series of exciting changes with respect to both its doctrine progression as well as its class feats. This is excellent, as the Warpriest has always been considered to be underpowered and underwhelming, and I am quite happy with where they stand currently. Finally, the Cleric received an indirect buff in the form of Divine Lance, now dealing spirit damage, giving them another offensive cantrip to use alongside Needle Darts. There are certain features that all Clerics enjoy at first level, namely, they are trained in Perception, Reflex saves, simple weapons, their deity's favored weapon, religion and 3 other skills, unarmored defense, and spell attacks and DCs. Clerics are also experts in will saves. From here, the Cloistered Cleric receives Deities Domain as a class feat, giving them a focus pool with 1 focus point, and is trained in Fortitude saves and untrained in all armor. The Warpriest, on the other hand, receives Expert Fortitude saves and are also trained in light and medium armor. Additionally, the Warpriest receives the Shield Block General feat and the Deadly Simplicity class feat if their deity's favored weapon is a simple weapon. The obvious role for a Cleric is going to be support. With additional heal spells and access to many of the best preventative and restorative spells in the game, the Cleric will have no problems taking their pick. Many divination spells also can be found on this list, and can certainly help with providing magical solutions to challenges. Your deity spell list can also change this to a degree, so be sure to take that into account as well. Blasting is usually better suited to other classes, especially those with more spell slots. However, if you know that you are going to go up against many undead creatures, offensive spells such as Holy Cascade can see good use. Warpriests, whose primary function is still going to be supporting, can also adopt a more martial style of play. With stronger upfront proficiencies in armor, the Warpriest can leverage their additional survivability into becoming a frontline caster. Solid class feats can augment these abilities as well. The Cleric, like with most spellcasters, have only a few class features to speak of, most of which arrive at level 1. More or less, the features that the Cleric receives are due to their deity. Each deity has their own set of edicts and anathema, and violating these tenets can result in loss of class features and spellcasting. Some deities also allow you to sanctify as either holy or unholy, committing you to forces formerly known as good and evil. Other deities may force you to decide, and a few formerly neutral deities do not sanctify Clerics at all. Divine Font and Sanctification are loosely linked, as almost all good deities will be locked to the healing font, whereas most evil deities will be locked to the harmful font. Most neutral deities will allow you to choose either or, and this determines if your bonus spells will be heal or harm. Finally, Clerics can then choose a doctrine to determine how they approach spreading the word of their deity. Cloistered Clerics are of the cloth and gain more spellcasting relevant abilities, while Warpriests focus on the more martial aspects. These doctrines progress as you level up and will be described shortly. The last thing I wanted to mention was Miraculous Spell, a 10th level spell slot that all Clerics receive at 19th level. All Clerics will receive certain advancement bonuses as they progress throughout the levels, but their choice of doctrine will affect which talents they will gain at the defined levels. Let's start with Cloistered. At 3rd level, their Fortitude save increases to Expert. The rest of their doctrine benefits follow suit with other casting dedicated classes, Expert proficiency in spells at 7th level, followed by Master at 15th and Legendary at 19th. Their weapons increase at 11th level, but only for their deity's favorite weapon, simple weapons and unarmed attacks, and everything else stays trained. The Warpriest, on the other hand, gains trained proficiency with all martial weapons at 3rd level, and become experts with their deity's favorite weapon at 7th level. Their spell proficiency is increased to Expert at 11th and Master at 19th, but will never reach Legendary. Their Fortitude save increases to Master at 15th, and as per all other Master saving throws, treat successes as critical successes. With the Remaster, they also gain Master proficiency with their deity's favorite weapon at 19th level. All Clerics will receive the following benefits as their level increases, starting with Alertness at 5th level, increasing their Perception training to Expert. Their Will save increases to Master at 9th level, and their Reflex save increases to Expert at 11th. Their Unarmored Defense increases to Expert at 13th level, and Warpriests also apply this benefit to their armor training. Finally, all Clerics gain Weapon Expertise at 13th level, dealing extra damage with their deity's favorite weapon. The Cleric has a bevy of new, fun class feats to play with, but I'd like to return to the classics first. For Cloistered Clerics, Cast Down is an excellent controlling option that can be used as a supporting tool in combat. Healing Hands and Communal Healing are minor but staple feats that can amp up your heal spells. First up for the Warpriests is the Emblazon Armaments list. This is a fantastic boon for any Warpriest build, and having a deity that gives you acid, cold, electricity, fire, or sonic damage will be fantastic to complement any build when Emblazon energy comes online at 8th level. Channel Smite is a great way to augment your damage, while Warpriest's armor can bolster your AC at little to no cost to your encumbrance. All clerics can make use of their domains in order to get more focus spells and a larger focus pool. Raise Symbol, a new feat, gives you a bonus to all saving throws and combos very well with Emblazon Armaments if you bear a shield. There are 4 things to consider when selecting a deity: favorite weapon, skill trained, 3 or more additional spells known, and access to 4 domains. Most clerics are probably unenthusiastic about the skill training, but ones like medicine and athletics could prove to be useful. The favored weapon is essential for Warpriests, as getting Erastil's longbow or Gorm's greatsword are certainly 2 steps ahead of most simple weapons like Pharasma's dagger. The domains are more important for the Cloistered Cleric, as they get to choose 1 at first level. There are a wide variety of fantastic domains to choose from, but my personal favorite has to be the Wormkin domain for Draconic Barrage, able to deal multiple different types of damage with decent range to boot. For Warpriests, any domain that can bolster Emblazon energy down the line would be great. Fire, Cold, and Destruction are all solid choices here. Spells known are quite useful for all clerics, as Cloistered Clerics can make use out of spell attack and DC dependent spells like Sarenrae's Fireball, while Warpriests can have that all-important Sure Strike from Iomedae or Regathiel. Speaking of spells, it is important that you use your main spell slots to branch out from the beaten path of healing. Divine Font should give you a sufficient amount of healing for an adventuring day, but feel free to add 1 or 2 more heals in for good measure. For those who chose the Harmful Font, you are in a bit of a bind. The 2nd level feat, Versatile Font, can mitigate this, but do be aware of the opportunity cost associated with that. Bless and Heroism are obvious picks for the status bonus to attack rolls, while Bane and Fear are solid options to debuff opponents. Summoning spells are also interesting choices to add another body to the field to provide flanking or consume enemies' actions. Of course, you should also pay attention to the spells your deity grants. Often they will provide additional utility or damage types you wouldn't be able to normally find on the Divine list. Irori's Haste and Gazrae's Lightning Bolt are 2 such examples. Personally, my Cloistered Cleric prepared spells often include a variety of spells to fit my adventuring day. A blast or 2 can go a long way in a pinch, but ensuring that I have enough buffs and restoratives for my party are also important. I tend to not prepare too many heal spells, even at later levels, but Vital Beacon is usually in there somewhere. When playing a Warpriest, I always try to fill as many low-rank spell slots with Sure Strike. Channel Smite is one of my go-to feats, so filling higher-level spells with Harm is also imperative. This leaves only a few slots for other spells, and almost all of them will be buffs. Medic is probably my top archetype for Cleric. Getting additional healing, an extra skill increase, and some excellent feats like Doctor's Visitation and Holistic Care will be excellent to pair with the Cleric's natural supporting abilities. Similarly, the Bard Dedication can open up options like Courageous Anthem and Dirge of Doom, though this does conflict a bit with spells like Heroism and Bless. Finally, Flexible Spellcaster is an interesting option if you are exploring higher levels of play. There are a lot of spells that Cleric can get good mileage out of heightening, and only sacrifices little in terms of overall utility. Playing a Cleric is usually pretty straightforward. In Exploration mode, Cloistered Clerics will want to repeat a spell or detect magic, while Warpriests also have the option of the Defend activity. In terms of downtime activities, treating afflictions will be your go-to option if your party has come down with some nasty diseases. Earn income is always a staple, and gathering information if you have a bit of charisma and are trained in diplomacy is also there. In combat, you will want to lead with buffs. Bless and Protection are good choices, with guidance as a backup. At later levels, you will want to use stronger spells like Heroism. Healing should come preferably before your allies go unconscious, as they will be spending a lot of actions to get back up. Blasting should be used as a last resort. Warpriests will want to get to the front lines and start hammering away with Channel Smite, using their healing capabilities in a pinch. This build focuses on a ranged Warpriest, which is a bit antithetical to what I had been proposing earlier. The purpose of this build is to make use of Emblazoned Armament and Runic Weapon to shore up your middling offenses, and then transition to a hybrid backliner when more powerful spells are available to you. Wall of Thorns is a fantastic controlling spell that doesn't rely on your DC and makes it easier to separate and eliminate targets. Next up is your classic Cleric build, using spell slots to buff allies and preparing offensive cantrips to deal damage. Bless and Protection are great options to keep your frontliners at peak performance. Later, this build wants to take cast down at earliest opportunity in order to deal some damage and debuff at the same time. This Warpriest build takes a different route, using the harmful font to deal massive damage to enemies. Channel Smite at 4th level makes the most out of the additional harm slots, and Warpriest's armor can help shore up their defenses. Alternatively, if you can find the room to take the Domain Initiate for the Destruction Domain, Emblazon Armaments and Emblazon Energy can be a solid route to take as well. The Undead Master takes a different approach to playing a Cleric, and though it sacrifices a lot of the usual healing options courtesy of the healing font, you can still prepare plenty of heal spells in your normal spell slots. Animate Dead is the other spell you want in order to get your build off the ground, and preparing that at multiple spell ranks will be imperative. Post-Remaster, the Cleric finds itself in a comfortable place in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. It received a bunch of quality of life buffs to its chassis that make it much less of a burden to play, especially with the loosening of its charisma dependence. New feats add a bevy of options to customize your Cleric, and the Warpriest has been improved by a reasonable margin as well. Overall, I give the Cleric a rating of A-, which is very respectable. With their additional spell slots courtesy of Divine Font, I now believe that the Cleric surpasses the Bard in terms of best overall support class in the game. However, it is fairly difficult for the Cleric to fulfill other roles properly, and though it is more durable than the 6 HP casters, it loses a lot of utility from their bonus spells being limited to only heal and harm. The Warpriest is still a difficult doctrine to evaluate, and I think my initial rating of it still stands. It might even be A+ at lower levels, but the further you get up there, the more the Warpriest feels like luster. It's probably A- until around 9th level, but seriously begins to fall off at 13th. Master proficiency in weapons at 19th is just not relevant enough to bolster its rating, but its class feats certainly are. Warpriest can be used as a solid hybrid support who can stand in melee almost as well as most martials, but will need to rely on buffs and DC independent spells. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for additional content. I plan on releasing one video of this type every week until I have covered every class, so do stay tuned. I currently do not have plans on doing these videos in any sort of order, but we'll make sure that every class is covered. You can check out the slides in the description below. And of course, have a great day.